Shout out to Mixmaster Season, man, the ones. So, when you close the conference, you gotta bring a big keynote speaker. Who you gonna bring, Dio? What are we gonna do this year? Well, we're gonna take you to school, we're gonna take you to church today with one of the legends from this city, from this country. Please make some noise for my man Friday.
Thank you. Thank you to Dio for having me over here. It's my brother. Let's get to it, man.
First time we met, I was at Government Nightclub. Anybody remember Government? Some OGs in the building. You were handing out flyers. And you said to me, I know who you are. I said, okay, I don't know who you are. I didn't know who you were at that time. But in that moment, you still gave me some advice and guidance.
Yeah.
And I feel what you've done in your career is give a lot of advice and guidance. But where it starts from is loving hip hop. You say, we love hip hop.
Yes, sir.
And you have become the premier outlet for artists in this country to put their music out. Why did you want to do that?
Well, it started because it is a podcast. It just started as something that me and my friends wanted to do, just to shoot the shit and talk about what's going on in the scene, right? As a podcast consumer myself. But as I started to see, from the interviews that we started doing, the reception that we started getting from the people, and that kind of way that people were looking at it like an outlet, right? Like how we used to look at the radio stations back in the days, how when Flow was around, or when Flow was at 93.5, or all the college stations.
Flow ain't around anymore.
I wasn't trying to.
That's the way it is.
But when all the college stations are around and stuff like that, there was that vibe where if you get on that radio station, that's gonna help your career. That's gonna help your trajectory of your music. So once I started getting that kind of vibe from people and artists, I started getting that feeling of a responsibility, right? So the objective of the podcast kind of changed over time, near the beginning, but over time, where I was like, this is a little bit bigger than us, right? This is not just us shooting the shit. Might be something where we might be able to help change somebody's career. And then I started just leaning towards that energy.
I mean, yeah. Speaking of changing artists' careers, I was going to ask you a question. I still will ask it, but what about Pressa? Because I feel like you've done a lot for Pressa.
I feel like Pressa has done a lot for himself, to be honest. When it comes to any artist, even specifically like artists like Pressa, the work that they put in, we respond to, right? For example, with his interview that we did, the first interview, I was running around chasing him for 2 years before we got that interview. And the time that we actually got it is once he was signed to Sony, he had attachments about to come out and everything was going on with him. It was like the right time and the right place for that company to plug us in and say, hey, can we get an interview going on with him? You know what I'm saying? I felt that interview right there was something where he got to be more comfortable because he was talking to people back home, right? And I think that's really valuable for Canadian artists when they're starting to go around into the States or the UK, all around the world, where they still have that home base, that place where they can come through, get their interviews, do their press run, and then, go back into the world, right? So I feel with Pressa, it's a symbiotic relationship that we both help each other.
And when I think of Pressa, I'm like, when was that kid born? You know what I mean? Like early 2000. And I remember in 2001, I'm living in Toronto, and my boy K Rizzy, shout out to K Rizzy for gifting me this jacket, isn't it? Dope?
Yeah, I got a sweater from them too.
See, and look at that, right? So K Rizzy tells me back in 2001, he's like, Dio, what do you know about this crew? What do you know about this crew? You know what crew he's talking about?
Oh, you're gonna say Empire.
Empire.
What with a crown on it?
What is Empire?
So the Empire crew is a collective of amazing spitters, right? 6 guys from all over the city: Scandalous, Atom Bomb, Trader Rhyme Animal, Tech Man, Toxic the Secret Weapon, and Messiah, right? And these guys came together as a collective back in 2000, right? July 1st of 2000, actually. And through the time when they first started, people were like, yo, when's an album gonna drop from these guys? Because they all had their accolades collectively, you know what I mean? Like Scandalous was the battle rap guy, you know what I'm saying? Just killing everybody in the battles. And Adam Bomb was just a lyrical like legend from like the time he was like born, basically, right? So people were like, when are we gonna get to hear this album? But they also had a reputation of being a very rowdy group. Right? So when I came along around, let's say 2003, 2002, I was already managing at the time. I had managed a few artists. I was managing an artist named Buns, who was playing basketball for the NCAA, as well as coming back here and doing recordings at the same time, right? And so I was getting into, trying to manage more artists and build my label, right? So I started managing Empire, try to bring some structure to that group. And it took about 4 years from the time I started managing them to actually get the album together. And actually 5 years. And we dropped the album Get It in 2009. One thing I'll say quickly also with that album, it was one of the first digital distribution deals that happened in Canada at the time. Salute to Jesse and Mo over there, Hip Hop.
Hip Hop Canada, y'all!
Yeah.
Mo.
Yeah, at the time they started a digital record label in collaboration with Koch Records that evolved into E1 Music, right? So they wanted to start putting out artists digitally, through iTunes. This is like back in 2008, 2009, right? Like there was no streaming back then. So when we got to deal with them and we put out the Get It album, that was like, to me, one of the first digital albums that it went out there. Like there was no physical copies. We were popular for physical copies. We did the mixtapes and stuff like that, right? And we did print physical copies, but the distribution was literally all digital at the time. And this is back in 2009, right?
Now, you came out with that album, but what was SARS?
So SARS is Sick Artists Running Shit. This was started by Trader Rhyme Animal, right? It was a mixtape series where he would get artists from all over the country and some people from in the States as well, right? And he would get them to rap on, not original beats, sometimes original beats, but beats that were already out there. And he would just go across Canada and sell these CDs. He had the backpack that was like a radio backpack. So anybody from the old school who knows, salute to Trey, you know what I'm saying? Anybody who knows and seen Trey with that radio backpack, you're a real old school head, you know what I'm saying, from back in those times, because he would be out there with those CDs selling hundreds, thousands. I think with all the SARS mixtapes and that came out over the years, he probably would sell way over 100,000 mixtapes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That doesn't suck.
By hand.
So let's take it back in the day.
Yes, sir.
Who were your influences that taught you how to do this?
Curtis Mayfield's
Which part? Because I used to rap too.
Hey, it's an open-ended question. We're gonna get into the rapping part too.
In the late 90s, when Master P, when Puff Daddy, all these guys started getting major label deals, not record deals, but label deals. That was a big inspiration to me, right? I moved to this city in 1997, okay?
Where'd you move from?
I moved from Montreal originally. And in Montreal, we have a scene out there, but one thing with Toronto is that there's such a rich history out here. And even back in like the 90s, you already had Cardinal, you had Shot Clear, all these guys on TV. Socrates. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm watching these guys like, holy shit, these guys are superstars. Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen.
You know what I'm saying? Mishi Me, Maestro Fresh West. Like, I'm literally watching TV. If you could get on TV, that's like a big stunt, right? So I had to be here. But one thing that was happening around that time was the label deals. So I came out here to start learning about the business. When I moved here, I went to Harris Institute of the Arts. Okay? For the people who know, that's like the rival to DRED. It's basically a music school. There's two different sides, right? See the sound man in the back. He was in the PED side, is it called? Or something like that? The production and engineering side, right? And then there's the management side where you get to learn about management and stuff. I took the management side.
Anyways.
Right? And I just wanted to learn about the business because in my mind, I wasn't just going to be a rapper. I had to be the rapper who runs a label, like Jay-Z. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are inspirations, like, in that little pocket of time where, like, hip-hop was starting to get a little bit more industrialized and people were starting to get about their business, where I was like, okay, that's who I want to be. You know what I mean? Like, my whole goal before any of this podcasting and all that was to be like Jay-Z. Be a sick rapper who runs a record label with a whole bunch of guys on the label. You know what I'm saying? Like, why ask the label for a couple of million for one artist when you could ask them for 50 million for your whole label?
Makes that decision, you're gonna pick up on that for, you know, you don't know what you're gonna play next. You don't know. You don't know what you're gonna play. At the end. But that's one of the things I love about hip hop. Because I love hearing those stories. Like I love Nas. The thing I loved about Jay was he was telling you in the records, I'm going to these companies, they're turning me down. I have to do it independent.
Yeah.
And they're telling me this, but I'm still going to do it. So my next question is, who is your mentor?
My mentor, that's a great question. And I've thought about this over the years, even like, because I feel like I've mentored people over years, and I feel like it's really important to have a mentor. Right now, one of my mentors, even if he doesn't know it, is Noah 40 Shabib. Right?
Who is 40? Does he have a connection to Empire at all? Or?
Well, he was the original producer and engineer for Empire back when they first started in 2000, right? Like, that was his original group. And that's when we met, like 2002 when I met them, right? When I met the group. So our friendship started then. But now, as somebody who is a sound engineer myself, right? Like I'm constantly recording voices, right? I'm cognizant of the way that I'm projecting my voice in this microphone right now so that everybody can hear it in the room. And, you know, that I'm recording on my camera here so that I can capture everything well, right? And I can hear everything that's going on, like the conversations in there and everything, but that's not just me on my own and repetition, that's also having conversations with 40, telling me about how sound is an always ever moving thing and how to do sound cancellations and how to like sound treat a room and the difference between sound treatment and soundproofing and you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of jewels that I take from him that he uses for music for like the biggest artists in the world that I apply to podcasting.
Yeah, these intricacies to the music.
Definitely.
It's
Shout out to 40.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
shout out to 40.
You can make some noise for that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So cool. And shout out to this guy too. He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. This rolling deep. So you were a rapper.
Once upon a time.
Are you a rapper?
I feel like that's a trick question.
Because you keep on saying it in the past tense.
Yeah, because I retired in 2017. That was the last time I put out a full project, right? And I was putting out stuff on the streaming platforms, TuneCore, you know what I'm saying? And the last time that I put out something was 2017. But I feel like it's kind of a trick question because, like, do you ever stop being a rapper? You know what I'm saying? Like the philosophy.
I like the Dio impersonation right there too.
Don't fucking kill me. But no, real shit, like I don't. Okay, as an artist, right? As a true MC, you hear a good beat and raps start going through your head, right or wrong?
Why?
Because you're a rapper. You're an artist. Like you start constructing things. Oh, I would fucking kill this on this beat. Right? That's what a true artist. Like really, that's what really happens when you're an artist. Like there's rappers who are just trying to catch a lick, right? So they'll get somebody to write their bars for them. They don't care about music like that. But if you're a rapper, like there's that thing that's always in your brain. Like, oh my God, yo, you're at a party, you're hearing a great song, and you're like, ooh, I'd be able to kill this beat. You know what I'm saying? And then now words will start to form in your head. You're like, shut up. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't happen to me anymore. Like, I don't hear hot beats and I'm like, ooh. I'll say a hot bar like this. That don't happen to me anymore. What does happen though is when I have to interview somebody and I finish writing, like, let's say the 15th question, and I'm just putting my wrap-up question. Now I feel like I'm just finishing a 16. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh, I'm gonna kill this shit when I do this interview right here. This guy's gonna be like, yo, how did you know that? You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
That's the punchline.
That's the punchline. You know what I'm saying? And I'm positioning it in like question 8. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, we're all laughing, key, and I'm like, yeah, so that time that you did this and that, and they're like, oh, snap. You know what I'm saying? And I could look at the audience and they'd be like, oh, snap, you really asked him that? Yeah, I did. You know what I mean? Like, now I get that. That's where my creative outlet's going to. Like,
If
so,
you want to share with me.
You know what I mean? That's where it is.
And I'm curious to take that a little bit further because, I love rapping, I hear a beat. But nowadays, when I hear music or when I'm with an artist, I like to come up with ideas with that artist. I was in Barcelona hanging out with this artist. She's an amazing artist, man. I don't know if you ever heard of her. Her name is Reem Salmi.
Okay.
And we were just talking, vibing, talking about life. And then we talked about bringing back an old song. Because remember how Diddy was doing these records? The songs came out like 10, 15 years before.
Yeah.
And it's like, why aren't we kind of doing that again? But like, I was like, people forget about Madonna. It'd be great, Reem, if you did a version of Papa Don't Preach.
I got you.
Right? I said, that would be dope. So to go back in your catalog, man, what's one song that you did that you think represents you the most?
Out of my catalog. Wow.
Curveballs. I just keep on throwing curveballs.
Yeah.
I tell another story and then I just give you a curveball.
Now I feel like I gotta go into my Spotify. I can't catch me on Spotify, by the way. Now I gotta go into my Spotify catalog and like think. But wow. I have a song that's like the 3rd song on my Nocturnal album. I don't remember the name of the song, to be honest. Like, maybe I smoked too much weed. But it's song number 3, okay? Go check out the Nocturnal album on Spotify.
So number 3.
Right? And that song right there, to me, represents me the most at that time. Because when I was making music, it was a representation of the things that I was doing at the time. Alright? Like, I was heavily into, not heavily, but I was into my street shit. You know what I'm saying? So
we want to hear that song 3. You know what I mean?
No, we don't need to hear about my music, brother. But like, yeah, it was something that represented me just driving, being in my mood, always in my brain, going to try to make more money, trying to build up to get to another place. So I'll find it for you and I'll bring it back for you after. You know what I'm saying?
But speaking of the street shit.
Wood grain is called. Wood grain.
Wood grain.
Thank you.
But speaking of the street shit, one of the things I really respect about you is you had a blog and you were documenting what you went through and how you've gone. And can you speak a little bit about the evolution of, you don't have to get into details, or you
I'll get into
but
details.
Where you were and where you are now, brother.
Okay, so the blog that Dio's talking about is the Sober MC, right? The Sober MC blog I started back in 2011 when I first came home from prison. I went away back in 2010 for a firearms conviction. The reason though, or not the reason, but the thing that led to it was a fire that went on in my apartment building, right? At the time, I was knocked out cold because I was drunk as hell, right? I used to drink 365 days a year, leap year, you know what I mean, throw in an extra drink in that time too, right? Like I used to drink to the point where if I had to take any type of like medication or anything like that, like, when the doctor tells you, well, don't mix alcohol with this, now I'm pissed. I'm like, fuck, I can't drink this. I can't drink because now I gotta fucking take this stupid ass medicine. Like, why do I gotta be sick? You know what I'm saying? I used to go to different liquor stores so that they don't see me at the same liquor store every day, so they don't really see how much of a drunk I was. You know what I'm saying? So I fell asleep in my apartment, right? I won't get into what led up to that, but I woke up in my landlady's office with the fire chief and a policeman. And they took me to the police station, they went back, found a firearm, and I ended up having to go away, and I got sentenced for 3 years and 9 months. I was blessed because I didn't have any violent priors, so I was eligible for something called accelerated parole review, right? Where you get to go in front of the parole board in 1/6 of your time. In that time that I was in jail in that year, I prepared everything that I could. I rewrote my resume. I got everything that I could do ready so that when I went in front of that parole board, that they'd be like, what are you even doing here? You know what I'm saying? Like I wrote 3 books while I was in jail.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And to me, that was a turning point for me. And when I came home, I started writing The Sober MC. When I went to jail in 2010, in February 2011, 18th of 2011, that was also the last night that I ever had a drink. On the way, I was waiting for the bottle person to come and check me, okay? I was home on probation from the gun charge. And, I didn't know that the ETF was on their way instead of the bottle person. So my door got kicked off maybe like 2 months after I got probation. And that night that my door got kicked off and I was taken to jail, the dollar bottle person didn't reach, but that was a blessing because I never got to drink that night and I never drank since. But
don't get me wrong.
At the same time,
okay, but like you find a fine balance with it. You know what I mean?
Definitely, you're right about that because we're in a bar here, and it's not like I'm like sitting here having twitches or anything like that. Like I have lost the will to want to drink. You know what I'm saying? Because of the things that maybe it's like PTSD or whatever. But like I've built so much since then. Like I came home, started working a corporate job because I had to, but I didn't know that I could. Right? Like I used to work for Shoppers Drug Mart's head office. And I excelled in there like quickly, like from like being a customer service agent to being a trainer to being a social media liaison. Like I did a lot of things in a short space of time. And a lot of that time while I was in there, I was still on parole, right? Unbeknownst to like a lot of people in the office. So I say all that to say, there's nothing that can hold you back from anything that you're trying to achieve, right? Like I was able to work a corporate job, excel and keep on going while still being on parole. You know what I'm saying? So when people give me excuses for anything now, I ain't even trying to hear it. Yo, you gotta chill though, homie. We're trying to have a conversation over here. You know what I'm saying?
You're a bad individual.
But you know what I mean? It's real shit.
Reminds me of a song from Grupo, Live and Proof.
Live and Proof.
Yeah, you know that one. Thanks for being just so real, because like I didn't know if you want to talk about that.
No, the thing is, all these things are in the blog, right? I feel that even though we're not rapping anymore, rapping is an outlet. It should be an outlet for the things that you might have stuck inside you, right? So if I'm an artist or creative in the true fashion, if I'm not rapping, how am I still going to be able to release the things that are inside of me? So whether it's through writing, like through blogging, whether it's through, podcasting and asking questions or just discussing things that are going on in the world, I'm still able to like release different things that I have inside me creatively. You know what I'm saying? Like the art never stops.
Sometimes you gotta let it sink in. You can't just say something right after, right? You gotta let it sink in.
Oh, real talk.
So, man, this is the last question. And I'm an artist.
Me an artist.
And you should have seen the running joke yesterday. But I'm an artist, and I want to come out and make my music. I have that dream of being one of the biggest rappers in the world. So, what's one of the things I could do to do that? I'm not just talking about me. I'm just saying if I'm an artist.
You gotta do research and you gotta work, right? The time has never changed. It's always been the same. Nobody cares about how good your music is until it gets to an audience. You know what I'm saying? Like you can tell any outlet, yo, I got the greatest song in the world. How hard have you worked to push that so everybody else knows that? You know what I'm saying? Once upon a time, like even the things that we discussed here, like I'm out there putting out flyers, Trey's out there putting out CDs, myself was included, we're out there selling CDs on the street. But these are ways of trying to create awareness for ourselves. You know what I'm saying? So that time has changed where you don't actually have to go walking all over the place anymore. You can go sit and create mad awareness just sitting on your couch. You know what I'm saying? But now you have to do a different set of research. When's the best time to post? What are the best hashtags to use, or what are the best amount of hashtags to use? And that information is ever evolving. So you have to go and do more research. There's a lot of artists who are like, yo, I'm going to the studio and I'm grinding. I got 10 songs, I got 100 songs. Okay, do you have anybody on your team that's going to help you with your social?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or do you have somebody who's going to follow you around and document all your activities so that you don't only have just your music videos, but then you have a bunch of extra content that you can feed to your socials.
Absolutely.
Right? So that, I was hearing on the panel before, don't be afraid to post something again, and that's true. But always create more content so that you also have more than just your music to push. So that your audience gets to know you better, and then they want to tune into your music more. Yeah. Right? One thing I didn't mention is part of the reason I started doing a podcast, or what evolved to a podcast, is because I paid for a publicist once upon a time $500 a month for this publicist. And it's just because I wanted my music to be hotter. You know what I'm saying? And one of the people on that team told me, if you want your music to be more popular, make more content. Outside of the music, start getting people to know your personality more. So what I started doing is I started blogging, I started hitting people up on the street, asking them questions about relationships and stuff like that, and making streeter YouTube programs out of that, but then using my music as the beat beds and the intros and the outros, just sneaking in people's subconscious. This is my music. You know what I mean? I'm doing food shows or I'm popping up at restaurants. This is all because I wanted to be a bigger rapper. You know what I'm saying? But I also was learning how to do interviews. I was learning how to use cameras and all that. And then eventually, even while I was podcasting, when I first started, I was still rapping. And I was playing my own music in the beginning of the podcast. You know what I'm saying? So I had an ultimate goal. Even though the plan changed and I'm not a rapper anymore, that was the key. Just making more content so that you can create more visibility for whatever you're doing. Right? So that's all I got for that. That's the jewel I need for that.
You know what? Yeah, give it up for that. Bro, can I say something to you? As my walk-off shot to you? Don't give me this when I was a rapper. Because I can't wait to hear your next record.
Did this happen or something?
Hey, you better make another record, man.
Possibly. It's all about the demand. You know what I mean?
It's the demand. Can I get all year?
I feel like Jerry Seinfeld. I will not run again. No, but yeah. Obviously, I have more visibility, and I'm getting to do cool shit like this. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying for anybody to ever stop rapping. Continue to follow your dreams. But for me, the path that I've been able to go on since the time of retiring, and just being able to be a part of the culture like this, oh shit, man! That to me, that was one of the best decisions I ever made.
Well, I told you sometimes when I hear a beat, I think of a rap. Sometimes, I hear a song, I'm like, this would be for an artist. So here's my game for you.
Talk to me.
I'd like to see you be like a DJ Khaled.
Okay.
Come out with a compilation, just have your taglines in the beginning. We love hip hop, or just talk that talk.
Listen, you're saying things that are I don't want to respond to because they might be things that might already be in the working or not. Okay? But I just know that we have a lot of artists that we've interviewed over the years, a lot of talented people, right? And we could make 10 compilations off the amount of interviews that we have. You know what I'm saying?
And again, man, I like how you get artists when they're just coming up and then, you know, they blow up. Like, I was over at his house. He's telling me about this one artist. I think it was King Money.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know who King Money is. I said, I don't know. He's like, you don't know who King Money is? How many streams?
Crazy.
How many streams?
I don't know. Collectively, he's probably got like at least 50 million streams.
Right?
Because Come Outside probably has like 20 million views on YouTube or something like that, right? So if you take that, add it to Spotify and everything else, like, that kid's, he's a real artist. You know what I'm saying?
knows who King Money is.
Of course.
There you go, JD.
Come outside. Come outside. Yeah.
Come outside. Well, you guys came outside today. Thank you guys so much for being here. Please make some noise for crowd.
Thank you.
Northern Power Summit